I picked the absolute worst Thrall in Conan Exiles to take out and level and see if I could get it leveled up to the point where it could face the most dangerous enemies in the Exiled Lands. What's up everybody, my name is Whack4863, but you can call me Whack. In this video, I want to highlight the differences between a Thrall that has a very low damage modifier and Thralls that have very high damage modifiers. Now this Thrall has the lowest damage modifier in Conan Exiles, coming in at 0.14. That means if you gave this Thrall a weapon that did 100 damage, it would actually only do 14 damage with that weapon, and that's before calculating in all the reductions for armor and different things like that. So this Thrall literally hits things with the best weapon like it's swinging a baguette at a brick wall. But this Thrall has something special going for it. You see, it's got a ton of survivability in the amount of hit points that it gains per point in vitality, coming in at a whopping 282 total hit points gain per point leveled in vitality. So while the enemies aren't really going to feel the attacks, or it's going to feel more like being hit with a wet noodle when this Thrall attacks something, it will also be able to just soak up an absolute ton of damage, and I want to know how that's going to play out when we go and face things like the Arena Champion or the Red Mother. But the first thing that had to be done was the leveling process. We had to go from level 0 to level 20 before I'd feel confident taking it up against some of these higher level enemies. So we headed down to Noob River, where I wanted to just enjoy our time killing shalebacks and leveling up. And that's when it happened. We had our first encounter with a corrupted shaleback. And I've got to tell you, this fight gave me a lot of hope for the future of this Thrall. Not only was it able to defeat the corrupted shaleback, but it did so while being low level and losing very little hit points. This fight was a real eye-opener in the fact that not only was it able to defeat it, but I also knew some other key information about how this was going to go. You see, it took an absolute ton of time for this Thrall to kill that shaleback, and that told me that everything that we were going to go up against was going to take a lot of time to kill. But the amount of hit points that this Thrall was gaining every time it leveled up was so much that it gave me hope for the future that it may end up with enough hit points to actually defeat some of these higher level enemies. So I decided it was time to move on to something a little bit more difficult, something chunkier with a lot more armor. And so we made our way to where we could find the Rock Nose so that we could challenge those to a duel and see how this Thrall turned out. And along the way, I would look at how the Thrall was leveling up, check out its experience and what level they were, and to see how well it was leveling up. Now this is a fast leveling Thrall, so it is in the category of Thralls that is going to reach level 20 the fastest when you are leveling it. Now the Rocknose fights went about as expected. It took a lot longer for the Thrall to kill it than it would have if I just stepped in and did it myself. You see, the Thrall needed to apply somewhere between 10 and 15 hits for what I was able to do with 1 or 2 hits. But that's not necessarily a bad thing if you're looking for a specific reason to take a Thrall with you, and I'll get into that a little bit later on in this video. After slaying some Rocknose, I decided I wanted to give the Thrall a real challenge, so we headed into the Spider Cave with the boss at the end. And I was rather surprised at the fact that the Thrall did really well. Mainly because it had so many hit points and it allowed me to do the damage to the target. You see, the way that aggro works in Conan Exiles is the enemies kind of register the most recent damage and then they attack that enemy. So using a Thrall to just kind of take aggro for a moment can give you the upper hand in the fight. Additionally, if you're using a build like I am where you do more damage when attacking from behind, having a Thrall just get that enemy to turn around for you can give you a big advantage against that enemy. And the two of us were able to easily defeat this boss. We killed some undead shalebacks, and then with our newfound confidence, we decided it was time to take a peek in the Unnamed City. Making our way through the Unnamed City, we came across a lot of skeletons, and these skeletons really gave the Thrall a hard time. You see, she would not only have issues with the pattern of attacking these Thralls, but she'd bug out and not be able to attack back. But this gave me a little bit of confidence because as they were attacking her, her health points were actually going up almost as much as the enemy was knocking her down. Partially because of the food she had on her, as well as the armor that she was wearing, reducing the amount of damage she was taking. This did let me know that she was definitely not ready to solo any of the bosses in this area. So we did a little bit more leveling up with the skeletons, and then we decided we'd face up against the brute on the way out of the unnamed city. And the brute didn't prove to be that challenging. We used the tactic of just trading off the aggro. When it was aggroed on me, I'd roll out of the way of damage. When it was aggroed on her, she'd take it straight to the face, and I would do damage from behind because that's where I get my additional armor penetration and the most amount of damage. Now my base is built just outside of the unnamed city, so we decided to stop by and have a cold drink at the new tavern. If you're not familiar with the tavern, I will link a video in the description of this video so you can get over and check it out. This is a new thing that's coming with the Age of War Chapter 3. And if you haven't seen that video and you don't know what I'm talking about, there's this really cool feature right here on YouTube where you can subscribe to get my videos. So click that subscribe button, ring that bell, so you get notified on all the new videos that I post. After finishing our refreshing drink, we decided to head up to the Mounds of the Dead and check in on the white skeletons. Now these guys give an absolute ton of experience when you kill them, so this is a great way to level a thrall if you're looking to do that. I did most of the damage while the thrall took most of the hits, but we were successful in killing most of these whites. Once we eradicated the whites, I decided that I was just bored of the leveling system, and I decided that at level 16 I was just going to admin level the thrall the rest of the way to level 20. Then I took her back to the base and made her drink a bunch of rebirth potions so that she could get the best possible perks. After making her drink 7 rebirth potions back to back, she did get redeemed, hollowed, and roll with the blows. Redeemed gave her an additional 15 points in vitality, hollowed again 15 points in vitality, and roll with the blows an additional 10 in grit. Now this could have been better if I got one more perk on her that gave her extra vitality, but it gave her 13,840 hit points, and I didn't want to risk not being able to get back up to a number that high. And I felt like this was going to be a high enough number to finally run the test of going up against the arena champion. Before I let her go it alone, I decided I would engage in the fight with the arena champion with the thrall by my side. And this fight went really well. The thrall was able to take some hits when I didn't want to, and do a little bit of damage when I wasn't around to do it. However, it was the same thing as before. I had to do all the damage, and the thrall had to take the aggro every once in a while so that I could heal up or regen stamina and reset for the fight. The time had finally come to see if the thrall could do this on its own, and boy was I not disappointed. Now, the thrall wasn't able to defeat the arena champion. However, during this fight, both the thrall and the arena champion put a rock in between them and had a hard time hitting each other. Neither one of them could figure out how to navigate around that rock in order to have a fight that was more intense and more exciting. But at the end of the day, the arena champion just did so much more damage to the thrall that the thrall's health points couldn't keep up with the amount of damage that it was receiving, and it didn't have a high enough damage output to put enough of a hurt on the arena champion. You might also have noticed that there is poison on the arena champion during this fight. I gave the thrall a weapon that was poisoned for this fight so that the thrall could do more damage directly to the hit points of the arena champion, where I feel like this fight would have been much worse if the thrall had its original weapon, which was the momentum. And I told you earlier that I'd explain why you might want to go out and use one of these thralls as your companion. Really what it comes down to is the fact that you are the one that's doing most of the work, but you have that thrall there to cause a distraction, and you don't have to worry in most cases about that thrall dying because it's got so many hit points. So if you want a solo-esque kind of gameplay experience, but you also want to give yourself just a little bit of breathing room, taking a low-level thrall like this that just has a ton of hit points is a good way to do it. Additionally, I would recommend that you give that thrall a weapon that is going to accent the way that you play. So they should have a weapon that is causing a status effect that you are not causing with your weapon. That's just going to give you another edge to defeat the content in Conan Exiles. Additionally, bearers have a higher capacity of inventory slots, so they can carry more items for you than a fighter or an archer or even a dancer. So if you need a thrall that can also be your pack mule, this is a good route to go. Don't forget to whack the like button on the way out, and let me know in the comment section below, what do you think of this test? I'd like to thank all my YouTube members for their continued support. Y'all are absolute legends. If you are looking for information about Conan Exiles and how to start good, there's a video on the screen right now that's going to show you where to get iron early on in your gameplay.